Imagine this. A bride's hand flies across an elderly woman's face on her wedding day in front of hundreds. But what if I told you that filthy old servant was the groom's own mother? Stay with StorySphere, because this slap will break your heart, then rebuild it stronger. I told you not to come here. How dare you show your face? The Holy Church, like the sky. I told you specifically how I ruined it. Get out of my sight. The bride, Amara, clenched her jaw, eyes blazing as she screamed at the elderly woman before her. Filthy old woman. You ruined my big day. Get out before I have security drag you out. Crystal glasses crashed onto the marble tiles, shattering like someone's heart. The choir fell silent. Guests froze in disbelief. The old woman bent down, trembling hands gathering the broken pieces. But the real pain wasn't in the burning slap on her cheek. The real pain was this: the bride had just slapped her own mother-in-law, and she didn't even know it. In that moment, Chinedu, the groom, a young CEO, the billionaire adored by the entire city, stood paralyzed. That was his mother, the woman who raised him from muddy streets to towering success. The woman he loved and respected more than anyone in this world. Yet today, in front of hundreds, his mother was treated like trash. But wait, do you think a single slap can destroy a lifetime of sacrifice? Keep watching StorySphere, because this mother's forgiveness will shock you more than the slap itself. My friend, do you believe wealth means anything if you abandon your humanity? Tell us where you're watching from. Lagos, Abuja, Accra, Nairobi, Johannesburg, London, Paris, Toronto. Drop your location below so we know how far love and respect for parents can travel across the world. Don't forget to like this video to support meaningful stories. Hit subscribe to StorySphere so you never miss those moments that make your heart stop and think. In a tiny village at the edge of the red dust lands, where mornings wake with roosters and nights fall asleep to the rhythm of crickets, two souls depended on each other to survive. Mama Ngoy, a small woman with a back bent too early by life's burdens, and her only son, Chinedu, the single ray of light in her shattered world. Her husband died before Chinedu could even say the word father. On the day he left this earth, she knelt beside his grave, tears soaking into the dirt, as if they could form a path for him to come home again. But the earth never returns the ones it takes. So from that moment on, she was mother and father in one body. Every morning she rose before the sun even opened its eyes behind the bamboo grove. She walked the rocky dirt road to the market to buy cheap vegetables from early vendors. By evening, after her shoulders were numb with exhaustion, her hands never stopped kneading dough, chopping greens, sorting beans, anything to make sure there was something to sell the next day. Chinedu grew up breathing the scent of sweat and hearing the ragged rhythm of his mother's tired breaths. Some weeks rain poured endlessly, business failed, and dinner was rice with salt and water. She watched her son chew slowly, and it felt like 1,000 knives piercing her chest. That night she held him close and whispered, "Don't be sad, my son. I will do everything so you can study and live with dignity like others." Those were not promises. They were sacred vows carved into her heart. There was a day she couldn't pay tuition. She knelt right at the school gate, begging the teacher to let her son finish the term while she searched for money. Villagers stared with judgment. Whispers stung like needles, but she stood up, straightened her torn headscarf, and told herself, "If my son can learn, then every humiliation is worth it." Chinedu saw everything. He didn't cry. His tears dried into silent fire, turning into a hunger to escape poverty and give his mother the life she deserved. Whenever he scored the highest in class, he sprinted home barefoot across the scorching ground, raising his paper high. "Mama, I'm first in my class again." She hugged him and smiled with eyes that glistened. "Well done, my son." One day, The whole world will know your name." But with every step forward he took, her body stepped one backward. Hands that once were soft became cracked and bleeding from endless labor. Feet that once were quick now dragged with every cold night. One evening she was mending her old clothes to sell again in the morning. The oil lamp flickered, her shadow stretching long across the mud wall. Chinedu stared, voice trembling. "Mama, if you're too tired, I can quit school and help you." She placed a hand on his head. "No. Everything I couldn't have, you must have. If you stop now, all my sacrifices mean nothing." Then she smiled, a brave smile hiding oceans of pain. Everyone in the village knew this Mama Ngozi was poor, but her dignity was priceless. When Chinedu was accepted into a university in the city, she held the admission letter like a treasure too precious to touch. She borrowed money everywhere, scraped every coin, and even sold the wedding ring she cherished for years just to put him on that bus. When the bus drove away, she ran alongside it until the dust swallowed his figure. She stood there a long time, arms wrapped around her chest as if holding her heart in place. She feared that once he became a man of the city, he might forget the scent of village soil and the warmth of his mother's arms. She didn't know. That very day, Chinedu made a silent vow. "If I succeed, Mama will be the first person I bring home. If I become wealthy, her hands will never bleed again." And from that moment forward, every sleepless night, every salt and water dinner, every drop of sweat she shed began to bloom in the garden of his future. The city welcomed Chinedu with skyscrapers that seemed to touch human ambition itself. Neon lights, endless traffic, and glittering dreams painted the night sky. But every step he took replayed his mother's words in his mind. "Success isn't for show. It's to protect the ones you love." On his first day of college, Chinedu wore shoes worn thin at the soles, and a shirt his mother washed and ironed with loving precision. Some classmates stared with judgment. Others laughed quietly behind him. "Village boy!" But he tightened his grip on his cheap backpack and kept walking. He wasn't there to look good. He was there to defeat destiny. He studied day and night. Whenever exhaustion threatened to break him, all he had to do was close his eyes and see it. Mama trudging through the rain with her goods, lips purple from the cold, yet still smiling when she saw him with a warm bowl of porridge. That memory was the fire that kept him alive. He could not quit. He must not quit. One day in a tech class, the professor asked, "If you could create anything to change lives, what would it be?" While others dreamed of luxury gadgets, Chinedu's thoughts drifted somewhere more personal. Recently, Mama had begun forgetting things. Sometimes she would get lost in the market crowds. He raised his hand. "I want to build an app that helps elderly people find their way home easily and get assistance when they feel lost." Silence. Then the professor slowly nodded. "Your idea may not change the world, but it will save someone's world." From that moment, Chinedu's path changed forever. He quit one of his jobs and poured his time into coding. Nights passed with only the glow of the screen reflecting off determined eyes, lines of code, bugs, failures. Yet every setback reminded him of Mama and lifted him back up. And then it happened. His app launched and blew up. Millions of downloads, news headlines everywhere, investors lining up to fund him. The boy who once ate rice with salt became the youngest tech billionaire in the country. At an award ceremony under roaring applause and flashing cameras, the host asked, "Where did your inspiration come from?" Chinedu smiled, voice tight with emotion. "From my mother, the woman who always found a way to bring me home, even when life tried to make me lose my way." Thunderous applause shook the hall, but his eyes drifted to the back of the stage where an empty chair made his heart ache. Mama still had no idea. She was still in the village selling vegetables to pay off the last of his school debt. A few days later, when he stepped off the bus in a modest suit and shining eyes, Mama Nagsy blinked hard, thinking she was seeing a ghost. "Is that really my son?" Chinedu embraced her tightly, tears staining her fragile shoulders. "Mama, from now on, I will be your feet. No one will ever look down on you again." He brought her to the city, to the grand mansion he had just purchased. People gasped at the sight of a billionaire proudly escorting his humble mother, with a faded headscarf and bent back. But Chinedu felt only pride, because he knew without her there would be no him. During their first fancy meals, she fumbled with the silverware, and he gently helped her cut her food. When the housemaids offered assistance, she waved her hands. "I like doing things myself. That way I still feel alive." Chinedu understood. For him, nothing his mother did was ever small. And then, during these peaceful and perfect days, love arrived. Chinedu met Amara, beautiful, elegant, and a smile that could turn every head in the room. He believed she was life's reward for his suffering. But there was something he didn't see. The look she gave his mother was nothing like the one she gave him. And he didn't know a storm was coming. Stay with StorySphere. Watch until the end to see whether this story ends in tears of joy or regret. Because in this life, every slap is returned with a lesson that hurts far more. From the day Mama Goy stepped into the city, her life seemed to turn a brand new page. Yet even inside a mansion big enough to swallow her little village whole, she still woke before the sun had a chance to rise. She tied her familiar headscarf, walked down to the kitchen, and helped prepare breakfast. Those hands, once shaping porridge and cheap greens, now seasoned meals fit for a billionaire she had raised, without ever letting him miss a single meal. At first, the staff were confused, but eventually they admired her. No one understood why the mother of a billionaire wanted to do things herself. Until Chinedu spoke one sentence that silenced all questions. "Let Mama do what makes her feel alive. That is the real luxury." Every night after conquering meetings and signing million-dollar contracts, Chinedu removed his powerful suit, slipped into a simple shirt, and sat with his mother as she told stories of home. Every story, every laugh washed the weight of wealth off his shoulders. One evening, Mama stood on the balcony, looking at the flickering city lights beneath them, twinkling like lost stars. "The lights here are beautiful," she whispered, "but they're not as warm as the oil lamp back home where you grew up." Chinedu wrapped an arm around her. "Where you are, that is where my home will always be." But within those tender, peaceful days, a tiny crack quietly formed. Amara entered their lives like a flawless advertisement, designer dresses, expensive perfume, and a smile that could stop conversations. From the moment they met, Chinedu was captivated like a moth burning its wings on a candle flame. He didn't know that beneath the glamour were sharp edges. With him, Amara was an angel. "I admire how devoted you are to your mother. You're the kind of man every woman dreams of." But when it was just her and the staff, or when she passed by Mama Goy, her eyes turned cold. Mama's humble presence irritated her. She once whispered to a friend, "A billionaire with a mother like that! How embarrassing!" Chinedu never heard that. He was too busy being in love with his destiny. One afternoon, the staff were preparing for a major business reception. A maid accidentally dropped a wine decanter. Amara exploded. "Do you have any idea how expensive that was? You useless fools only know how to ruin things." Mama Gozy rushed out from the kitchen, kneeling to gather the shattered pieces. A shard cut her palm, blood welling up. Amara noticed but did not care. Mama spoke softly. "Let me handle it. It was just a mistake. Don't shout at the children." Amara spun toward her. "Don't interfere with me. In this house, I know what's best." Chinedu stepped into the room just then. He saw the blood on his mother's hand and immediately rushed to her. "Mama, are you hurt? Sit down. I'll call the doctor." Mama quickly tucked her hand away, hiding the wound the way she hid her heartbreak. "I'm fine. Just a scratch. Don't make a fuss." Amara froze for a moment, then forced a smile, pretending nothing happened. But inside Mama and Goy, a quiet fear started growing. That smile, too fake, too sharp, too much like the smiles from those who once looked down on her poverty. In the days that followed, she kept her distance. She didn't want to disturb her son's happiness. Chinedu, glowing with the joy of his first love, didn't notice her fading comfort. The wedding was planned as the event of the year, a custom gown from Paris, a golden wedding hall, guests made of elites. People whispered, "A fairy tale wedding, a life made perfect." Yet among all that luxury, Mama Gozi fumbled with the same hands that once carried a whole world on their own. She silently wondered, "Will my son keep his grateful heart in this blinding world of wealth?" She had no idea that the answer would come on the most beautiful day of his life, and it would destroy her pride, shatter her heart, all with a single slap that would echo through their bloodline. Chinedu and Amara's wedding was hailed as the event of the year. Reporters swarmed the venue and powerful figures from the worlds of finance and politics filled the seats. The hotel hosting the reception glimmered like a royal palace out of a fairy tale, crystal chandeliers illuminating the ceiling, imported French flowers lining the staircase to the church entrance, and a choir singing melodies so rich they smelled like wealth. The bride Amara emerged like a goddess painted to perfection. Every step was curated to be iconic, every camera lens glued to her. Her chin lifted, her gaze sharp and confident as if the entire world already belonged to her. At the back, Mama Nagi watched in silence. She didn't wear designer gowns like the elite women around her. Instead, she wore the traditional dress she stitched herself, clean, neat, and full of history. Her eyes sparkled with joy, but deep inside a faint tremor. Was it from happiness or something she couldn't yet name? Chinedu appeared shortly after, dressed in a dazzling white tuxedo. His eyes lit up the moment he saw his mother. He rushed to embrace her tightly. "Mama, you look beautiful today. You must smile a lot." She wanted to respond, but pride clogged her throat. Her little boy, the one who once wore torn slippers, now stood in the very center of glory. Sunlight beamed through the church, blessing everything with golden perfection. It felt predestined, a day where love would shine brightest. But fate enjoys twisting perfection with something small backstage. The staff was short-handed, chaos bubbling beneath the luxury. Seeing this, Mama did what she had done all her life. "Let me help. Things need to be ready on time." No one dared to refuse. She was, after all, the groom's mother. They admired her humility, so unlike the arrogance often floating in homes like this. She put on a simple black service uniform covering her traditional outfit, just to ensure everything would look smooth and coordinated. She only wanted her son's wedding to be flawless. But sometimes kindness walks us right to the edge of tragedy. Amara stood proudly at the altar, a victorious smile on her lips. She did not notice her mother-in-law in the far corner of the hall carrying a tray of crystal glasses for the VIP guests. Mama's foot caught slightly on the thick carpet. The tray tilted, a few drops splashed right onto Amara's flawless wedding gown. A tiny mistake. Yet to someone who valued appearances more than morality, it was an unforgivable sin. She whipped around, her eyes blazing fire. In that moment, every sweet word she used to when Chinedu dissolved into ash. "What do you think you're doing? Do you have any idea how expensive this dress is?" Mama Gozi didn't even finish her apology before the bride's hand flew across her face. Slap. The sound struck the air, silencing the choir mid-note. Guests gasped and spun around. Mama's cheek flushed red, her eyes wide with shock and heartbreak. But the knife twisted deeper when Amara spat her next words dripping with venom. "Stay away from me, you cheap, worthless servant." Silence shattered into 1,000 emotions. No one knew. No one realized that worthless servant was the groom's mother, the woman who sacrificed her youth and her heart to raise a boy who became a hero in the eyes of society. And in just seconds, the groom would walk down that aisle and witness the woman he called "my love" turn into the very storm that destroys the heart of the woman he calls "Mama." The room went still. A storm far more violent waited just beyond the church door. And when it opened, love would be tested, morals would be exposed, and loyalty would have to choose its side. The sound of the slap hadn't even faded when the grand doors of the cathedral burst open. Chinedu entered in his flawless white tuxedo, face glowing with joy. But after only a few steps, he froze, struck by lightning. Right in front of him, his mother, the woman he cherished his entire life, was collapsing to the marble floor, hand trembling against the burning red mark on her cheek. And Amara, his bride, stood towering over her, eyes blazing with contempt, fingers still shaking from the rage she'd unleashed. "Amara, what did you just do?" His voice cracked like his throat had been strangled by horror itself. Amara turned, face draining of color, when she realized who was watching. But within seconds, she straightened, arrogance snapping back into place. "She stained my dress. This gown costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. She," Chinedu repeated, his voice turning as dark as a midnight pit. "You called my mother she?" The entire church shuddered. Whispers ignited like wildfire. Amara stammered, glancing around for someone, anyone to agree with her. "I thought she was just some servant." But that excuse only shattered Chinedu's heart further. He rushed to his mother's side. "Mama, are you hurt? Mama?" Mama Goy forced a tiny smile, voice quivering like the last leaf in winter. "I'm all right. Just a misunderstanding. Don't make a scene." But her forgiveness stabbed deeper than any knife. Chinedu rose to his feet. His eyes locked onto Amara, sharp enough to draw blood. "You slapped my mother on your wedding day. Do you even know who she is?" "I didn't know exactly," Chinedu's voice thundered, "because you never cared enough to find out." Hundreds of eyes turned on Amara, no longer admiration, but disgust. A guest's voice rang out. "I recorded everything. The whole world will see how you insulted a great mother." Phones lifted like 1,000 cold judgments, recording the downfall of a woman who had worshipped her own vanity. Amara gasped, tears spilling, not from remorse, but from terror at losing everything. She scrambled toward Chinedu. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I love you. Don't end everything over something so small." "Small?" Chinedu's cold smile turned her legs to water. "A slap to my mother is never small." Then he spoke loud enough for heaven and earth to hear. "The wedding ceremony is over." Gasps erupted. Amara collapsed, her luxurious gown suddenly nothing more than chains trapping her arrogance. The staff escorted Mama Ngoy out gently. Her steps were slow. Her gaze held no anger toward anyone, least of all her son. "My child, don't let hatred turn you into someone you're not." Chinedu stayed silent. Pain roared in his chest like a beast clawing to escape. Outside, a fierce wind whipped through the churchyard as if trying to blow away the foolishness and vanity that had filled the air moments ago. Chinedu ripped off his white tie and held his mother's hand tightly. "Mama, from this moment on, I won't let anyone hurt you again." Meanwhile, Amara was ordered out by security to avoid press chaos. She kept screaming his name, but he never once looked back. Under the assault of flashing cameras, the once glorified bride shrank into nothing more than a sobbing figure drowning in diamonds and silk luxury that could never hide the poverty of her heart. The next morning, before the city's fog could even lift, social media erupted like a wildfire. The wedding slap, captured clearly on video, spread like an arrow dipped in the fury of millions. Bride slaps mother-in-law inside a church. Arrogance without humanity. What's the point of wealth if you forget respect? Amara's name, once a symbol of elegance and luxury, instantly turned into a national joke. Brands that once fought to work with her terminated contracts, erased her face from every ad within 24 hours. The ladder to fame she had desperately climbed collapsed with a single slap. And what about Mama Goy? She became the image of mothers who are disrespected in this modern world. Women who gave up everything yet were still looked down upon by those with no character. A press conference was held. Chinedu stood beside his mother, expression made of steel, though his eyes were still bruised with pain. He declared, "I will never allow anyone to insult my mother again. Justice isn't only for the powerful. It exists to protect the hearts that sacrifice silently." The room fell still. Moments later, he officially filed charges against Amara for elder abuse, defamation, and humiliation causing severe emotional harm. Amara appeared in court in a stylish outfit, but her former arrogance had vanished like a mask stripped away. She cried, clinging to excuses. "I didn't mean to. I love him. I didn't know it was his mother." The judge's response was sharp as a blade. Respecting the elderly is not a matter of knowing or not knowing. It is the basic morality of being human. The courtroom erupted into applause, not out of hatred for Amara, but because justice finally felt alive. After the verdict, Amara's wedding was officially annulled, sentenced to community service caring for the elderly, banned from contacting Chinedu or his mother, condemned by the public. The same flashes that once adored her beauty now recorded her tears, too late to save her. Meanwhile, Mama Nagi once again made the world weep. Speaking before the cameras, she whispered, "Do not judge someone forever by a moment they failed. Give them a chance to learn how to be human again." Reporters froze, moved by a forgiveness too pure to describe. But no matter how big her heart was, the wound remained. That slap didn't just hit her skin. It struck her years of poverty, her sacrifices, everything she endured for her son. Chinedu turned to her, voice shaking. "Mama, you don't have to be strong for the world." She smiled softly. "I am strong not for them, but so you know, I can still stand beside you no matter how big the storm gets." He took her hand, holding it as if love alone could heal every scar. In the days that followed, Chinedu refused all interviews, all invitations. He spent every moment with his mother. They walked under warm street lights each night, rich not in money but in each other. One evening, Mama asked gently, "Do you regret canceling the wedding that day?" Chinedu looked deep into her eyes, then answered, "If I had to trade the whole world just to protect you, I would do it again." Mama laughed, a laugh that returned life to her weary eyes. Because that slap, though painful, reminded the world of one timeless truth. A mother, no matter how old or poor, always deserves the highest place in her child's heart. The storm had passed, but the scratches on the heart still remained. On nights after the trial, Mom and Goy often stood alone on the balcony, staring at the city lights, her eyes drifting back to the distant village that once sheltered her and her son. Chinedu sat behind her, listening to every breath with worry. "I'm sorry for letting you go through that," he whispered, voice breaking like a guilty child. She turned and gently touched his cheek, the same cheek she once shielded from every hardship. "Don't apologize, my son. Everyone must face storms. What matters is how we walk when the sky clears." But there was one truth she always hid. She did not hate Amara. Not at all. One day, while volunteering at a senior care center, Her way of filling the empty spaces left by pain, she noticed a familiar silhouette sitting alone at the end of a row. Amara. No wedding gown, no flashing lights, just a community service uniform and eyes swollen from sleepless regret. She stood when she saw Mama Nagsy, hands twisting nervously. I know I don't deserve to look you in the eyes, but I want to say I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. Mama Nagsy remained silent. The silence stretched on endlessly. Then she stepped forward slowly, steadily, not like a victim approaching her offender, but like a mother walking toward a lost child. She placed a hand on Amara's shoulder. You did wrong, but you still have the chance to make things right. Amara burst into tears, a dam breaking after too long. She fell to her knees, wrapping her arms around Mama's legs. I don't ask for forgiveness. Just please don't hate me. Mama bent down and lifted her chin so their eyes could meet. Hating someone only changes your heart to pain. I want my heart to be free. And the greatest freedom is forgiveness. Amara collapsed into her arms. And that day, the world witnessed kindness defeating the small cruelty that lives in every human soul. When Mama returned home and told the story, Chinedu was stunned. How can you forgive someone who hurt you so deeply? She smiled gently, handing him a warm cup of ginger tea. Because if I don't forgive her, your heart will remain imprisoned too. He stared at her and finally understood her strength was not in her callous hands, but in her unbreakable heart. That night, they shared a simple meal like the old days. No candles, no media, no diamonds, no crystal, no grand weddings. Only the soft clink of spoons against bowls, the breeze brushing through the window, and peace resting on a mother's tired face. Chinedu held her hand tight. Thank you for teaching me what money can't buy. She waved off the compliment with a smile. I didn't teach you anything. You learned it from the way I lived. She looked out at the moonlight reflecting on the tall buildings. To climb to the top of glory, you must bow to the ground that lifted you and honor the hands that raised you from the earth. Chinedu pulled her into his arms, whispering, I love you. Always. Outside, the world continued pushing people into blind ambition. But their story reminded everyone of this truth. Success means nothing if you lose gratitude. And sometimes forgiveness is the strongest blow against cruelty. People often say poverty is a burden. But arrogance is the true death sentence of one's character. One slap on a wedding day hurt an elderly mother deeply. But it also reminded the entire world of a lesson we tend to forget. Those wrinkled hands once lifted us up from the ground. My dear friend, if your parents are still alive today, send them just one short message. I love you, Mom. I love you, Dad. Because sometimes that is the very sentence they have waited their whole lives to hear. And now, tell us, where are you watching this story from? Lagos, Abuja, Accra, Nairobi, Cape Town, London, Paris, Toronto, New York. Drop your location below so we can see how far love and gratitude can travel across this world. Don't forget to like this video if it touched your heart. Comment your thoughts about that slap. Subscribe to StorySphere so every new story becomes a mirror that reflects the love we owe our parents. And share this video with someone you care about who knows it might remind them to call their mother today. Thank you for staying with us until the end. See you in the next story. There may still be tears, but they will be the kind that make our hearts a little kinder.